So, you think of it, we're adults now, and I can still see and hear that passion and that excitement from you about that gift. And so that's what we are trying to create for more than 15,000 kids in Colorado each year. That same memory that draws you back to being this kid and having this excitement. And, for you, it was this long-term freedom that you never had before. And so whether it's that or providing a child a book where they can escape into a fantasy, or a basketball where they can go and shoot hoops and play games with their friends, whatever it is, we want people to remember what it was like to be a kid and then choose to bring that same joy to somebody else.
You're listening to Relish This, the Purpose Marketing Podcast. Here's your host, Stu Swineford.
Hey everybody, this is Stu. My guest today is Jessica Bachus, founder and executive director of Kenzies Causes. Her organization has several ways that they help economically challenged families, providing toys, school supplies, and necessities to help them lead a more normal life. Two really big ideas came out of our discussion. First, how to convey the message that though people like to provide more tangible assistance when giving to nonprofits, often your organization has relationships and infrastructure available to make monetary donations go a lot further. So we talked a lot about how to kind of message that and approach that challenge. And the second, and this is a pretty common cost trap that nonprofit leaders fall into. And this is the idea where one sees marketing as a cost rather than an investment. And this is exactly the idea of my book, Mission Uncomfortable, and what it seeks to address. So I had a really great conversation with Jessica. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. And here we go. So thanks for joining me on the show today, Jessica. Today I have Jessica Bachus from Kenzies Causes joining me. And Jessica, I'll let you just kind of tee up what it is you guys do and how you help people and make the world a better place.
Perfect. Thanks so much for having me. First of all, I really appreciate this opportunity to share about the work that Kenzies Causes does across the state of Colorado. As you know, COVID has created a little bit of a challenge for us, but we are still out there doing the work that we do. Our organization runs 3 programs, 2 of them throughout the state. That would be our annual Toy Shop program. Our Toy Shop program serves children ages birth to 18 at 6 locations throughout Colorado where families can come free of charge to pick out a new toy, a big toy and a small toy, both of them new, for each of their children. And we operate those toy shops in Fort Collins, Longmont, Rifle, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, and the Denver metro area. So that's our biggest program.
Wow.
Last year, we impacted 15,031 kids in the state. So in addition to our toy shops, we work with low-income schools and other nonprofits that serve families in communities that our organization isn't reaching. And we know that this year, the need is bigger than ever. We have been taking calls since September about our holiday program.
Gotcha.
And then we do a backpack program every August. We are in Denver, Rifle, Colorado Springs, and Pueblo, where we give backpacks full of school supplies to children in ECE through 12th grade. Again, the parents come, pick out the backpack with their kiddos, and it's full of new school supplies to make the start of the year better for everyone and give the kids the opportunity to start with a level playing field like all students and have the supplies they need to be successful. This year, we had a record-breaking year for us and served close to 4,000 kiddos in need in the state. So that was really great given the challenges with COVID.
Yeah, school was a little bit of a mess at the start of the year in terms of what was actually going on. So I'm sure that was a super challenge this year.
Yes, it was. But what we realized is that for a lot of kids, especially those younger students, they were going back in person and they really needed that supplies. And then depending on what community the kiddos were in, they would be going back in person. And then what we learned from families who had kids that were doing remote learning, there was still that need for those basic school supplies to work on assignments at home. So we're really happy that we were able to impact as many kiddos as we could.
Yeah, that's great. I can imagine that a lot of lower income kids who normally rely on having supplies provided at school would have been really challenged this year. So that's a great program.
Yeah. And then we have a program called Kenzies Kids where we work with families from nonprofit partners, and we help offset the needs for them to create a stable environment for their kiddos. So in a typical year, we would pay for extracurricular activity fees and school fees. We provide clothing, Halloween costumes, activities, things to just kind of create a normal life for them and their families. So in 12 years, we've worked with, we'll have 50 families that we've impacted, and about 140 kiddos.
That's great.
Yeah.
How are you guys finding? It sounds like you go through some nonprofit partners as well as obviously through some of the school districts. Are you looking for kind of Title I schools? Is that the correct terminology, and where you're targeting?
Yeah, so we do work with Title I schools, low income schools, but basically for our programs, our Toy Shop program and our backpack program, that's open to any family in need.
Okay.
It's been typically on a first come, first served basis. And what we know, because we do get data from all of our families that are served, is that the average family makes $15,000 or less a year. So they definitely are living in poverty and need our assistance. For the partners that reach out to us, it's really, they come to us, organizations, schools that are in need. We work with 2 schools in Greeley and a school in Avon and provide those schools with toys for their students. And so those have really come out of relationships that we've been building over the last 12 years. That there's a need in that community, and the best way for us to serve that need is not necessarily through an actual event, but through a partnership with a school or a nonprofit. We're only a staff of 2. So as a staff of 2, we can only do so much there are only so many days and so many hours in a week. And so we find that we can still impact families in communities such as Avon, Grand County, and Greeley in a very meaningful way, but making a partnership with a school or a nonprofit there.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, you do have a really big reach for as small of an organization as you are. That's fantastic. Has that just been growing over the last, you said you've been around for 12
So
years?
we are getting ready to host our 12th Toy Shop in Denver. We have been a nonprofit since 2009. I collected dolls and gave them away for 2 years before starting the organization. It's just really organic growth, really, finding communities and partnerships, and then somebody in that community seeing what we do and saying, hey, there's a need, like in Fort Collins, for example, the group that runs our Fort Collins Toy Shop is a group of volunteers. It's a family, husband and wife and 2 kiddos. And they started volunteering at my toy shop in Denver and did that for several years, and then said, hey, we know there's a need in Fort Collins. Would you be willing to expand? And that's how our expansion kind of works. 2 of our communities, we run the second weekend of December. So I go run Pueblo, and Julie, who works for me, goes and runs Longmont. So of the 6, we run 3 of them, and then we have volunteers run 3 of them.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
It is.
That's we look at those opportunities as kind of escalating engagement. So you've basically demonstrated the power of taking a volunteer and transitioning their engagement and their involvement to something even bigger, where they're now running their own little show,
right?
Which is just super cool to see how that works like in practice, because I think a lot of nonprofits out there don't necessarily. They haven't wrapped their arms around how to get that to happen, or that it can even happen. And a lot of times that journey is really, from a fairly linear, volunteer becomes a donor, becomes a super donor, becomes a corporate donor. And, it's cool to see another way of transitioning those people who have bought into your program and really understand and see the benefits that you're bringing to the table and being able to apply that in a whole new way. That must have been really thrilling when that ask came.
Yes.
When did that first happen?
So I feel like it's been 4 or 5 years. And then, our growth into Longmont came from a corporate partnership through somebody who owned a Ford dealership. They have now since sold that, but we've been in Longmont the same amount of time. And my personal piece is, gosh, we really can't pull this program out of a community that we've been in. So we'll just find a way to operate. And
Right.
we did a pivot 2 years ago, and Julie started running it, and we just changed the weekend that it impacted. But it really has become, the beautiful thing that I have found is that once people see the work in action, which is the impactful piece, is like when you go and you see the work that we're doing and you see the impact that a toy has, whether it's a board game or a bicycle, depending on what we have, then you can really understand that your time and your effort is changing the lives of people and communities and creating equality for kids who need it most. And I would say right now, kids, because of COVID, need equality more than ever. Ensuring that low income families right now, when times are the toughest, have a gift to give their child during the holidays, because every child deserves a gift during the holidays. I'm going to ask you this question, Stu. What was your favorite gift as a child? Christmas gift?
Ooh, that is a great question. My very favorite gift, it was probably the first bike that I got, which was a red Schwinn Stingray, with the awesome banana seat. I'm dating myself here a little bit, but it had the ape hanger handlebars and the sparkly banana seat, and that was probably the first big gift that I got as a kid, in terms of just this thing that produced. It was that gift that kept on giving, and that it was not only just the excitement of getting it, but also the freedom that represented, and the way that enabled me to be able to be more mobile and ride to the local 7-Eleven to buy gum or whatever, and where that was too far of a walk before. So I would say that was probably the one that sticks in my mind the most, for sure.
So, you think of it, we're adults now, and I can still see and hear that passion and that excitement from you about that gift. And so that's what we are trying to create for more than 15,000 kids in Colorado each year. That same memory that draws you back to being this kid and having this excitement. And, for you, it was this long-term freedom that you never had before. And so whether it's that, or providing a child a book where they can escape into a fantasy, or a basketball where they can go and shoot hoops and play games with their friends, whatever it is, we want people to remember what it was like to be a kid, and then choose to bring that same joy to somebody else.
I think that's really powerful. I love the language that you're using, and the way that you're framing that, and really creating, the ability. You asked me the question, what was my favorite gift, and it immediately put me back into that mindset of, I don't know if I was 5 or, however old I was, right? And so really creating that emotional connection and experience, and allowing people to relive that, I think is great. And my guess is that you're pretty practiced at that, and and use that effectively when trying to get people to donate or to become volunteers.
Yeah.
What's your model in terms of how are you funding all this great work that you're doing?
So it is individual donors that we're super thankful for, and small businesses. We have a couple larger businesses that are statewide sponsors for us, like SafeLight. We are incredibly blessed that SafeLight has come on as a statewide sponsor for us, and really helps us with logistics. You wouldn't imagine the logistics behind facilitating 6 toy shops and impacting 15,000 kids. It does become need for movement and things and storage. So they're a huge partner of ours statewide. And then we've just been, really fortunate that we've connected with, small businesses from electricians to construction companies to a law firm to credit unions. And it really kind of depends on what community we're in, what that looks like. And obviously in the metro area, we have our biggest impact and our most sponsors, but we have some really great sponsors in all of our communities that really help us. But we could always use more.
Sure.
The more support we have financially from businesses and individuals, the bigger our impact. So, $25 can ensure that a child has a new big toy at our toy shop. But then if you,
Right.
become a sponsor at a $500 level or $1,000 level in one of our smaller communities, that money goes really far for us because we work with wholesale partners to be able to purchase in large quantities, which reduces our cost.
I'm just trying to get an understanding of all the constituents and all the stakeholders that are involved in all of this process. And so I've heard, small donors, individual donors, business donors. Sounds like you have some corporate sponsors.
Yep. And we have grants. We have amazing grants that we've received over the years that support the work that we do. Some of those are private foundations. So they hear about us and ask us to apply, and then they start funding us. And then some are grants from businesses or organizations that anyone can apply. And so we do our work to get that. And then we have people who donate physical items to us. So during our toy shop collection season, we have people donate new toys. Typically, it's about 2,000 plus toys across the state that are actually donated to us in a non-COVID season. It'll be interesting to see what our numbers look like in about a month when we're collecting from the few locations that still wanted to collect actual toys.
Right.
So we've had to pivot a little, but our biggest stakeholders are individual donors, small businesses, some corporate sponsors, and then grants.
Okay, great. So how are you getting the word out? What's been working for you, or what have you, where have you been challenged to bring awareness to your program, particularly to the beneficiaries of it? When you're talking about people who make $12,000 or less a year, or 15,000 or less.
Yeah.
Your opportunities to reach that audience those become a little bit of a challenge. What have you been doing, or how are you getting that word out?
So that is one of the questions we ask everyone when they come to our events. How did you hear about us? Because that's important for us to make sure that we're staying connected in those resources that work to reach them. So our biggest way of reaching people is social media. So we have a very active Facebook account, and we create an event for each of our toy shops or our backpack events. So families hear about us on social media, and then they start sharing it. So a lot of social media, a lot of word of mouth, which I think the word of mouth comes a lot through social media. We can look at our statistics and see people tagging people when we're making posts. We also have a list of nonprofits and schools in each of our communities that we reach out to directly. We send them a flyer and encourage them to share the information with the people in that community. And then another partner that we have across the state is United Way. So if somebody were to call 211 in their community, and if we are running a toy shop, then they will share the information. And then in Denver, one of our partners is Telemundo. So Telemundo, we serve a high Hispanic population in Denver. So Telemundo is one of our partners that also helps get the word out.
Oh, great. So they're doing some kind of pro bono advertising and talking about it.
Yeah. So some PSAs, and then they share the information on their social media as well.
Okay. That's great. I mean, those That's amazing. Are you doing any paid search or paid advertising on any of these platforms?
No, we do not have the budget. Um,
Gotcha.
and, to be honest, for the most part, we haven't really needed to. We found a few hiccups. Last year we had to change a location for our Pueblo toy shop. So we did see a dip in traffic, and we think it was because we switched locations. So we've gone back to our original location, and then just really starting to utilize those Facebook groups that, where people share about stuff and things like
Right.
that. But our other locations, seem to be doing well. And then again, I believe in the uptick in traffic for Denver is really social media. So just being smart about using that. I mean, it would be great if we had a budget to do some targeted ads, but we don't. I would rather buy toys for kids than spend
Right.
money trying to reach more people.
So it sounds to me like increasing donations is a big item on your list of things to either dive into a little further or discuss. What are some other challenges that you've been facing either this year or just in general as you look to, a normal type year? Is it driving donations? What's most challenging for you guys? What are you struggling with?
I would say, getting our name out in some of the smaller communities that we're in. So, now that our biggest partner that we had in Longmont, ownership changed of the dealership we were working with. Now we need to find more funders in the Longmont area. And our plan in January and February was to really start working on that, March, April, May, but then COVID hit and nobody's going to meet with you. Nobody's wanting to hear about what you're doing. So I think that definitely it's a challenge. I would say in certain communities for us to grow our sponsorship, therefore the engagement from the community that can financially support us, not the people who need us, because we know there's a need. So that's a challenge. Staffing is a challenge. So if we can bring in more money, then we can hire another staff person, which would be huge for us to split some of the load a little bit off of Julie and myself to have a third staff person. So that, that was a goal to have at the end of this year or early next year. And that was all prior to COVID. These were hopes and dreams we had in January. And then 3 months later, everything gets shut down. So I would say those are, our bigger challenges that we would see anyway. And then COVID brings this challenge that businesses aren't open and people are not going into businesses as much that we would have seen previously. So, a year ago, we had over 120 barrels across the state collecting toys for us in different businesses. And I think maybe we're at 20. So we know there's going to be a reduction in physical items donated to us. So we've tried to pivot and encourage people to shop our Amazon wish list, and then they can still give an item. If they feel that they want to be able to pick out something, they can go to Amazon and then ship it directly to us. But money is, a monetary donation, allows us to purchase on a greater scale because, we're scaling our purchasing ability, whereas, a donor is doing a one-off. But at the end of the day, we really want the donor to do what's best for them. If that is going to a store and buying and dropping off, if that's shopping an Amazon wish list, or if that's making a monetary donation, because at the end of the day, it will still impact kids in need.
Have you been messaging that? My wife has done a ton of work in nonprofits over the years. And one of the things that she recognized and saw is a lot of people do like the idea of providing a physical thing as opposed to just here's some money. However, the message, which you've touched on for sure, is that a $200 monetary gift can actually go a lot farther than a $200, even a series of toys that cost the same amount. I don't know why I picked $200. That was just what popped into my head, but but you guys based upon your buying power and the relationships that you have, you can make that monetary gift go a long way. Have you faced that in terms of messaging at all, or you just want people to be able to make that choice themselves without any real influence?
I think that those are more conversations that we have on an individual basis, because I think people are so overstimulated, and maybe even more so with COVID, Zoom meetings, all of that, that their span of how much of an email are they going to read, that you have to kind of tailor your messaging, and again, the majority of the people, especially during the holidays, want to go shop for something. So, the beautiful thing about having a sponsor and securing a sponsor and saying these are our options is saying that when you give us $500, you're giving us that buying power. So, that's part of why we drive sponsorship and why we look to always increase our sponsorship, because the sponsorship is where, for the most part, we'll get that extra buying power. But then we also have, amazing donors that the end of the year is coming, and they look and they're like, we've got to do our end of the year giving. And so they look at their end of the year giving and they give, to us, whether their end of the year giving is a gift of $50 or $500. They realize that they need to do some of that actual monetary giving.
Gotcha. One of the things that it can be effective is providing people with several options in terms of their giving. And so as you're messaging, ways to help, providing people with the opportunity to say, donate money. And then you can say $100 buys this, donate physical gifts, and $100, there's some way to maybe message that to demonstrate to people how the monetary donation could actually go a lot farther. Just allowing people to participate, particularly this year, as we're facing a bit of an economic crisis and as well as a health crisis and all these other crises that we're navigating. Allowing or providing that opportunity to share your mission with their network, allowing that volunteer aspects to come into play as well. Even if it's just, here's a blurb that you can share on social to help promote what we're doing. Just providing that kind of guidance, I think, is super helpful, particularly when people are a little time strapped as well, and feeling the crunch of things. If you can just make that easier for them, then that's an opportunity to get that message out. It sounds like you have a decent donor base and a decent volunteer base that you've built up over the years. Have you tried to enlist those people as sort of your army, and in terms of getting the message out? So really leveraging that power of social media?
So I think that we do a decent job. Again, I think if we were a larger staff and there was more time in the day that we could do a better job. It is definitely something that I always look at, like, how can I turn, on a typical year, our Denver Toy Shop between setup and giveaway is about 500 volunteers, and they range in age from kids that are 8 and older now. So we know that, some of those are like family units and things like that, but how do we turn every volunteer into a donor? As much as you can try and message and do that. So then we've also come up with other ways to say, look, you don't necessarily have to donate to us. You can link your King Soopers card to our organization. And then if you shop at King Soopers, you're going to support us. You can link your Amazon Smile account to us, and you're shopping Amazon for, holidays or whatever, and you're still supporting us. Currently, in the month of November, we've partnered with a local boutique in Cherry Creek North. So if somebody donates $50 to our organization, Garbarini in Cherry Creek North, through November 15th, we'll give you 15% off your purchase. You just have to show them the donation. We partnered with Skipper and Scout, which is a children's boutique in Vail, through December 15th, and it's the same thing. So if you make a $50 donation to us, And then you order online and they'll give you a code to get a discount. And if you live in the metro area, they'll ship your
Oh, wow,
stuff for
neat.
free. And then Kendra Scott, which is a jewelry brand that is online and in Cherry Creek North and Park Meadows, we're doing a shopping event with them. But they've really done a great job of pivoting with COVID as well, because previously, in years past, you could only shop in store for your items or call the store. Well, now they have a code that you can use online. So they've done a really beautiful job of pivoting. So we've tried to expand the ways that people can impact us and then still get their Christmas shopping done. Still, fulfill what they're trying to fulfill, even if their budget has been impacted. So if somebody's like, I don't have $25 to donate, that's okay. Just connect us to your King Soopers or connect us to your Amazon Smile account, while you're shopping, and then money will come to us.
Yeah, those are all great opportunities. I wrote an article a while ago about wearing too many hats. It was something that I recognized that I was doing in my business, and I think I'm hearing that as well with you and your team. Since it's so small, there's just two of you. You guys are wearing a lot of different hats in any given day.
Right.
One of the things that might be interesting to explore is a simple outreach to that donor list and that volunteer list, and see if somebody has the ability to help take some of those activities off of your plate. So I'm thinking social media, if not crafting all the messaging, helping with the distribution of that messaging, writing emails, following up with people, just enlisting those enthusiasts who've expressed that they believe in your mission and have supported that in the past.
Right.
And how can we get them motivated and empowered to take it one step further and really, drive some of these activities that you're needing to tackle on a day-to-day basis. And it's always a challenge to come up with what can you let go of to figure out.
Right.
And there's a new book, and I can't remember the author right now, but it's called Who Not How. That's just been dropped, and it comes out of this idea that most of us tend to think, particularly entrepreneurs who are excited about learning new things and trying new stuff and knowing everything there is to know about every little thing.
Right.
We tend to get in the weeds about how do I get this done, as opposed to who do I get to do this for me. And so the more quickly that you can kind of migrate your thinking on that to, and I'm struggling with this myself, but get my mind wrapped around, who do I get to do this, as opposed to, okay, how do I do this? And I think that based upon this history that you have in terms of having a lot of really impassioned people supporting your mission, that there are probably some people out there that could help with some of that lift.
Yeah, and we do outsource our newsletter and our website management, which is a huge help for us, and then our blog writing. Just realizing that there's not enough hours in the day, and that isn't the best use of my time. But it's the people that we have doing that have done an amazing job, and it makes my life easier to know that I can just hand off the task of adding a sponsor or creating a form or writing a blog and say, this is what we need to cover, craft it, and I'll review it. We have had some people take on some of our social media to help alleviate that. So the only social media that I am really dealing with is like when it's in the live. So we did a photo shoot over the weekend with a magazine, and I was sharing like the live stuff that was happening, so people can see the actual, like, us in action, not just the curated crafted pieces, but also see we're really in action today. We're really doing something. So it has made it nicer. And then I think, when we can we definitely try to utilize our volunteers as much as we can. We're in a really small office space right now, so that presents some challenges, but we're hoping that by the end of the year that we will be in a new space, and starting in 2021, COVID restrictions followed or lifted or whatever, that we will have more opportunities for volunteers to come in and help in other ways that we could really use them. We just don't have the space. So being in a position to say, now we have the space, we would love for you to come and do X, Y, and Z on a continual basis. Can you do that for us? And really then be able to engage those volunteers that, maybe they only have 2 hours a week, or maybe they only have 5 hours once a month, but get on a schedule that says, gosh, we really need you, and we would love to have your 5 hours or whatever it is.
I can imagine that, assembling backpacks and doing some of the things that you've told me about that you guys do on a regular basis. My guess is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but were those normally kind of community events where you would bring people together and kind of package things up and have an assembly line kind of situation to build those kits for kids when you were doing the backpack, like the school supply stuff?
So so we really do a pop-up event for all of our stuff. So we set up on a Friday, give away on a Saturday. And yes, we have had backpack assembly lines. But what we also do is we purchase them pre-packaged. Cool. So it's more cost effective for us to purchase them pre-made. But each year, we have a couple hundred that we still end up stuffing. So we do that on our setup day or in the morning of, and then similar to our toy shops, when we are setting up on a Friday, all of our communities except for Denver give family stockings, and there's some stuff that gets put in those. So they assembly line on Friday and then give away on Saturday.
So you have that in and out kind of dialed in. That's great. That's great.
Yes.
Do you see the need for in-kind kind of, or not in-kind, but like venue donations? When you do these pop-ups, are you renting a space for a couple days, or are you getting those donated, that venue?
So for our backpack event, all of our space was donated, which was amazing. So all of our locations got donated space through partners in our community. And then for our toy shop, 2 of them I think we have to pay for, and the rest is donated space. We've worked with some churches, and they've just been really wonderful to give us their space. Unfortunately, Denver is such a large space. And years ago, we tried to go into like warehouse space that were, like an old Kmart or whatever. And, we're asking for a Friday to a Saturday. So like 48 hours. And when we had looked, and mind you, this Kmart in Denver is still sitting empty. They wanted $15,000. And I'm like, can't you just not donate it? I can't imagine you're going to lease the space or whatever in 30 days. So we work with the National Western Complex in Denver, and they work with us on pricing. They have become a great partner of ours, just in terms of it's a really great space. It's not in a neighborhood. There's plenty of parking. And when you're talking about serving 3,000 kids, so we did a little over 3,000 kids in Denver last year, and it was like 826 families. So that's a lot of traffic, a lot of parking, a lot of all of that. So we really don't think that we would move Denver at all, just because everybody knows that we're there. It's a given. This is where we're going to go. It's the first Saturday of December. But we've been very fortunate that in these other communities that we've been able to, some of them have gotten donated. I actually take that back. I do have to pay for Pueblo. We're in their convention center, and I have to pay them. But
well, it sounds like the location
it is what it is.
Is important enough to warrant that expenditure at that point, where everyone knows where the convention center is, or the where the stock show is held and all that. So that's a pretty I would say that familiarity outweighs perhaps any free opportunities that you might have.
Right. And it also becomes having a big enough space. So in Denver, when we're talking about serving up to 3,500 kids, you know, typically in a given year, COVID is interesting. So we don't have all the stuff that we typically have. But from, you know, toothbrushes and toothpaste for every kid to wooden toy cars to stuffed animals, all that, you know, we're talking, you know, 20,000+ items in a space. So you have to have enough space to spread all of that out and have areas where everybody can go. So it also becomes not only location based, but
Sure.
size based. And there's not a lot of spacing that's open the first Saturday of December to allow us to
Well,
come
this
in.
year's certainly interesting, and there's more and more vacant space out there. You know, whether it's large enough to accommodate what you're talking about is certainly another question. But there's inventory for sure. So it's kind of interesting how to think about how you would get in front of those kinds of people who have access to that kind of real estate that's open and available. But if there was a year where that would become more likely, I'd say this year is high up on that list for sure.
Yes, probably.
How in terms of donations, again, how big is your list of past donors?
You know, gosh, I don't totally know what that number looks like because I don't handle all of the donors in terms of the number and our donor database. I definitely know when a donation comes through and I know who our largest donors are and things like that. But in terms of how many different different donors we have gotten, I don't know that for individuals, but we're close to 40, if not more, sponsors in 2020, meaning different companies. So 40 different companies that more than 40 that have sponsored us throughout 2020.
How much visibility do you give to those sponsors? Is that something that they not only get a feel good, but there's also some potential, we'll call it advertising for lack of a better word, opportunity there?
Yeah. So kind of depending on what they're sponsoring. So we have 3 fundraising events a year. So we have a bowl-a-thon, a golf tournament, and an auction. So let's say they sponsor a lane at our bowl-a-thon. There's visibility leading up to the event, listing them as a sponsor. They're on the event page on our website. They're listed as a sponsor on our Facebook page. And then on the program day of event, they're listed as a sponsor, and then any press releases. If they're a sponsor at the golf tournament, then they have visible signage on the course listing them as a sponsor. Oh, and both events, they get to put stuff in our swag bag. So if they want to provide a marketing piece, then they can provide that to us. We give them the number and we put it in the goodie bag, swag bag that people get. Same for our auction. So, but across all of those platforms, those events, they get website visibility, the actual page for the specific event visibility. If they have a website on our corporate page, there's their logo and it will click through to their website. We do Thankful Thursdays on our social media. So we work through the sponsors, and it doesn't matter if they're a $250 sponsor or a $20,000 sponsor, they get a shout out. On our social media. It's called our Thankful Thursday. And it's usually, now we've utilized our youth advisory board members to do a shout out to our Thankful Thursday sponsors. So our middle school and high school students who support our work through sitting on the youth advisory board are doing those Thankful Thursday videos for us. So I do believe for how small we are that there's great visibility. There's stuff in our newsletter and things like that for them to get. Then, at the end of the day, also depending on what they're sponsoring, they get to have a volunteer spot at our backpack event or our toy shop, which again is where I say the magic happens, where people get to realize, oh my goodness, like this is where the impact is. The money that I gave, to be a sponsor of the golf tournament, this is where it impacts. And this is how the work that they're doing truly changes lives.
That's great. That's a really good segue, because I wrote down earlier, just seeing the impact, and how can you leverage those opportunities either by the storytelling, kind of like when you asked me what my favorite gift was, going back to your crew in terms of your volunteers and your donors, and collecting those stories, to really emphasize this emotional impact that you are able to make with these kids and these families. So through video, I can imagine that there might be a little squickiness in terms of shooting video of the recipients, but you could certainly get that as well and leverage that material. Obviously get permission and be sensitive to how that story is being told. But in the absence of being able to show video of the recipients actually experiencing this right now, going back to that crew and getting those stories, to just kind of reinforce that tie-in and reinforce this great work that you're doing, I think would be a way to help elevate those stories a little bit more effectively, and really get people's arms wrapped around how important all this is.
Right, absolutely. And we have done some utilization of that. We do have a generous donor who does video for us. Kind of depends on her schedule. Can we fit it in? But I would love to be able to connect with like a college student who has to create video for their classes or something like that, to or their thesis, or their final project, whatever it be, to want to come on board and interview people and put together those videos. Because again, when you talk about who and how, that is not
Mm-hmm.
my wheelhouse, and that would take me a really long time. So I got to stay where I'm the expert at, not venture out to where I would like to be. But I hope as we grow and get bigger, that those are definitely pieces that we can utilize and craft the story that continues to share the magic. In the meantime, we usually utilize a family that's in one of our programs that we've impacted to kind of say to our donors and to people that are potential donors, like, this program changes lives. This program has changed my life, the life of my kids, and your donation will help them to continue the work that they do. So I'm looking forward to our video that will hopefully be finished before Colorado Kids Day this year. So it's a really great story, and I think hopefully it will compel some new people to become donors and realize that their support can really change the lives of people.
I think that's great. It sounds like you're doing the right things in terms of putting together some of those stories and building those experiences. In terms of collecting the video, that can be as easy as just an ask, because I don't think it has to necessarily, like, each and every piece of that needs to be expertly shot and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So just putting out an ask to a segment of your list and saying, hey, we're collecting this. Would you take your iPhone and shoot a short video about the first present you remember getting, the first gift that you remember getting for the holidays, and I think that you would get some pretty fun things to be able to share. That would be kind of right. You could share them on social and obviously on your site, but that just capture that moment of people thinking about that question and delivering that answer. Mm-hmm. Sounded like staffing. So increased revenue and donations to improve your ability to just reach more people is certainly what what you're trying to do. Do you have a plan for that for 2021? What are you doing for Colorado Gives Day and Giving Tuesday?
So, basically our biggest events happen right around
Mm-hmm.
Colorado Gives Day. So, really letting our constituents know, one, to set your donation early because you can. So we reached out to our constituents today to remind them that you can pre-schedule your gift for Colorado Gives Day. And to, just again, remind them that them choosing Kenzies Causes as one of the organizations that they choose to support impacts kids across the state of Colorado and the kids that need our services the most, especially now during COVID. So really just reminding people that, it's the end of the year. Families are definitely in need during the holidays, and your donation to Kenzies Causes can really change the life of a kid and a family this holiday season for as little as, $5 or $25. I think it's really important for me as the founder and executive director to honor people where they are at. And we have some really amazing long-term donors that where they are and what works for them is $10 a month. And to me, that does make a difference. The fact that they chose us to become a monthly donor and give at a level that is meaningful to them means a lot to me as the woman who runs the organization and sees the impact and makes the decisions for the toys that I'm buying and that kind of stuff. And same for Giving Tuesday. Just again, reminding people that this is another time that you can give. It's a universal day of giving across the United States. And that by choosing us, you're choosing kids in Colorado who need us.
Well, the ask for, a $10 per month donation is a lot smaller than asking for, $100 right now today donation. And so leveraging that power of, and it does some things for your organization as well. It gives you some predictability. Obviously people could potentially cancel mid-year, but at least it gives you an understanding of what cash flow might look like. So instead of relying on everything pouring in at one time, giving people options to donate now, to donate over the course of the year, to really then reframe the way that they think about that donation. Because I think a lot of us, will go to Starbucks every day or, 3 times a week. And that's a, 20 something dollars if you went to Starbucks 3 times a week. Well, what if you just took one of those weeks and put that toward a monthly donation? And so we tend to, a lot of times we tend to get very focused on the dollar figure. And when you can attach that to an outcome, so what does $20 mean in terms of a kid's happiness, or attach that to a frivolous purchase in terms of, this is something that you're just kind of throwing that much away on, something that maybe you don't really need, and tying those two things together. When you can reset that narrative, that can be really super helpful in driving those donations.
Right. And, one of our goals for 2021 is to increase our monthly sponsors and to really focus on getting monthly donors to sponsor a kid in our Kenzies Kids program. We have about 100 active kids in our program. In that one that we meet with them monthly, and we provide them a gift card for their birthday during the month and things like that. And connecting that real child to a real donor and saying, this is the child that you're helping. Their name is Tino. He's in kindergarten. Here's a photograph of him. And your $25 a month donation will ensure that he gets to come to our monthly events, that he gets a birthday gift card and a card the month of his birthday. So that is really our focus for 2021, is to get all 100 of those kids. And it sounds easy. I was having this conversation the other day, and my friend was like, "Oh, that's easy." I'm like, sounds easy.
Right.
Sounds easy. but getting somebody to pull the trigger and spend the 5 minutes to sign up to become a monthly donor is completely different. I'm like, so my goal in 2021 is to get 100 kiddos sponsored monthly and have those people commit, because like you're saying, you know, people can give up that Starbucks. I mean, I get an iced tea from Starbucks every day. So I know, but I also think that once people do it, if it's a small enough amount, you forget that you're doing it. It just comes out of your account and you know, you're just like, oh, it's there. So I already know that it's gone. I don't have that discretionary income because I'm making a contribution. And not only is my contribution going to a nonprofit, but now I know whose life it's changing. And so, you know, if we can get 100 people at $25 a month in 2021, that's a great addition to revenue that I
amazing.
can count on.
So what you just described is sort of the Save the Children model. And I've been a donor to Save the Children for, I don't even know how many years now. And they do a really fantastic job of tying your sponsorship, so the language that they use, to a specific kid in some country that you're supporting. And then the other thing that they do a really good job of, because I know they've done it to me every year, is going back to that well, going back to those people that have donated once and trying to get them on a $5 a month plan, or a $10 a month plan. And then the next year going back to them and saying, thank you for being a donor. We really appreciate it. For an extra $250 a month, your positive effect goes this far. And so really just continuing to engage with those people who have demonstrated that they're engaged with you can be really helpful. And if you could just transition, just going back to that donor list of people who've either made that leap once and just trying to get them to do something, monthly. I think that would be the lowest hanging fruit for you guys in terms of who to start to target with that ask. And when you frame it as, all we're asking is for $5 a month, which is $60 a year. That's not a huge ask for a lot of people. And so I think coming at it from that perspective of let's just get people used to this and setting your goals to, let's get 100 people to move from a one-time donation to a monthly donation at whatever level, I think is a fantastic goal to set.
Yes. So for 2021, we're hoping that we hit that number, and then we can, really show those donors as well, the specific impact that they're having. And I too sponsor a child. She is the same age as my daughter that I started the organization in memory of. So Kenzies Causes is started in memory of my daughter, Kenzie, who was stillborn in 2007. And I sponsor a little girl that shares the exact same birthday as my daughter. And she will be 14 in January. And so, I know that I would be spending more than $38 a month to raise my daughter. And I get to make a difference in the life of this child in Africa because of my own daughter, making this choice that for $38 a month, I can go without, and knowing that I'm going to change the life of another child. So I think that fingers crossed that we find 100 amazing people who believe like you and I, that monthly donation changes
Well, I think
lives.
that's amazing. And thank you for all the hard work you're doing and all the good that you're putting out there for Colorado's kids. So I'd like to end these. Oh, sure. I'd like to end these. It's been an hour. I just flew by. I appreciate you taking the time.
Wow.
So I like to end our discussions and our conversations with an ask, because I think that we need more action out there. And so if you were to have our listeners, and this will actually come out right around the Christmas holiday. So it'll be a few weeks before it comes out. But if you had an ask for people, just something for them to do when they hear after they listen to this episode, what would you ask them to do?
So I would say to look at your situation in life. And if you are able to give of your money, if you can make a monetary donation, I would love for you to donate to Kenzies Causes. And if you have another organization that speaks to you, I would encourage you to give to that organization, even if it is $5. If you are in a situation where you don't have any money to give, then I would encourage you to see if there is a way you can give of your time, or maybe you need to clean out your closet or the closet of your kids and take your gently used clothing and donate it to an organization that serves children or families or people in need of gently used clothing, and make that gift. So I believe that during the holidays, there is a way for everyone to give, regardless of your circumstances, whether it's your time or with a donation of money or a donation of your things that your kiddos have outgrown, or maybe it's the sweatshirt that's lived in your closet for 5 years that you're never going to wear. I think there's somebody out there that could still use that, and that we all, right now especially, can give.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. How can people find you? Where should they go to get more information about your organization?
So you can find us at kenziescauses.org. It's KENZISCAUSES.org. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. All Kenzies
Fantastic.
Causes.
Well, thank you again so much for being on the show. It was wonderful talking with you. And here's to a really successful end of the year. Just a really successful end of the year donation ask, and here's to a real strong 2021 for you guys as well.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time.
All right, there you have it. Another great episode of Relish This, the purpose-driven marketing podcast. If you want to continue the conversation and see how we can unearth some gold for your organization, head over to relishstudio.com/podcast to sign up to be a guest on the show.